You know who's someone that deserves a second chance? Charlie Sheen. The Wraith, released in 1986 and is directed by Mike Marvin, who's also worked on such pictures like Better Off Dead, Sunstorm, and Madame Savant. And this film is starring Charlie Sheen, Nick Cassavetes, Sherilyn Fenn, and Randy Quaid. And the reason why we're talking about The Wraith today is because it was a PayPal recommendation and donation from a big contributor and supporter of this channel, Jeff Fry. Thank you very much. Getting to all of your recommendations that you sent me at the beginning of this year, all of these 80s hits. I feel like I've seen, like, all these recommendations that you sent my way, I feel like I've seen the posters or like the VHS covers when I've gone to the video rental store back in the day, back in the 90s and early 2000s when that was a thing. But movies I have definitely never watched or taken the time out of my day to watch until this review, until your recommendations. And I'll be honest, I'm actually okay with this movie. Some of these 80s films from your bundle, I'm like, what the hell are we doing here? Like the last one I just did with Iron Eagle. But The Wraith, while silly and ridiculous, I'm actually a fan of. I actually enjoyed this story. Mainly because the antagonist here, the villain, is one of the worst characters and worst people that I've ever seen on screen. And we'll get into that here in a little bit, but thank you very much, Jeff, for the recommendation. If anyone else out there also wants to be like Jeff Fry and help support me and contribute to this channel, you can select the QR code that is in the bottom left corner of your screen right now. Send over your donation of $5 or more with your movie recommendation, and if I have access to it, I will watch it, review it, and give you a little shout out, just like what I did with Jeff Fry here. In the town of Brooks, Arizona, Packard Walsh is the leader of a street gang who are notorious for drag racing and stealing everyone's cars that they beat, but he's also a possessive asshole, and if he catches anyone looking at his girl the wrong way, he beats the crap out of them. But there is a new kid in town riding his motorcycle by the name of Jake, who's taken a liking to his girlfriend and seems to not be fazed by Packard's threats. But what Packard and his street gang don't know is that Jake is actually a secret nighttime, well, the title of this movie, Wraith, dressed in all black leather with pipes and things on his arm with a huge-ass helmet, and he's basically driving a low-riding Tesla that has supernatural powers, and one by one drag races all of this street gang. And then, like, he pulls really far ahead of them, stops, turns his car to the side so the other car has no way of getting around them, and then it crashes in, everyone explodes, but the gang member dies, and the Wraith, Jake, is able to reappear somewhere else and then drives away. He's a spirit of some kind that has a second chance to right the wrongs of his previous life before. And do I spoil why he's... No, I'm not going to spoil that, because you know what? I recommend this movie. I think this movie is a lot of fun, especially because this is more of an independent feature. It didn't have a huge studio behind it. And when I hear independence, I think of just people who love making movies. Regardless of the quality that we get, I just know that there's a lot of people, crew, actors, directors, producers, everyone involved in this project that just love the movie making process. And that makes me happy. And you know what? Good on Mike Marvin, who directed this movie but also wrote this movie, for writing one of the most villainous villains you have ever seen on screen. This guy is such a piece of shit. Anyone who just looks at his girl, even though she's like not really his girl, like she has no interest in being with this guy at all, but she has no choice because he's so violent and such a physical presence that she feels small and she feels like she can't break away. Anyone who looks at her the wrong way, if someone's offering her a ride home from work, this Packard guy is going to get out and beat the shit out of that guy. Or drag race him. That way when he beats him, he gets his car, and then he also beats him up too. And then in an attempt to woo his girl and to convince her that she is his girl, he cuts his hand and makes like a blood oath with her, like puts his blood on her face. Like, what the fuck is with this guy? And there's nothing redeeming about him, which is an aspect that I don't really like. Like, I like seeing how people can be redeemed and learn from their bad things, but there's nothing for this guy to learn, or at least he's not willing to at all. It makes for a terrible person and a terrible villain, and when you're in a narrative where you want someone to root against, like, I'm trying to think, in, like, mainstream movies, like, huge-ass quality films that have villains in them, I'm trying to think of a villain that is more menacing and someone who I just absolutely hate seeing on screen more than this Packard guy. I can't think of anyone off the top of my... Maybe, who was that asshole dude in the Green Mile, the one who did all the bad things? Percy, who was the little, like, weasel dude. Maybe him and Packard. They're, like, the worst characters on screen that I just absolutely want to see killed. Well, and then Joffrey in Game of Thrones, but no one really talks about Game of Thrones anymore. Now, I will say the pacing here and the editing of the story on screen, it's a little choppy. Like, we kind of just go from place to place, and the transition between scenes, it's very choppy. Like, I don't see a progression of character development. It's kind of just, I'm a character with a motivation, and I'm here, and then I'm in the next scene, and then I'm also here, and you don't really see any growth with anyone, really. Which is a necessity, I think, in films and in any type of narrative. I want to see a character change. But I'm trying to think of who the protagonist of this movie is, actually. And I don't think there is one. There is an antagonist, absolutely. This fucking Packard guy. But I don't think there's any one central character who we are behind. Yes, Charlie Sheen is like the big name, and he is the Wraith. He's the one going around doing the things. But he's really just like a spirit of vengeance. Basically, he's kind of the Spectre from DC Comics, here dressed in all black leather like Neo from The Matrix. And then he goes about getting justice in the way that Vin Diesel gets justice in the Fast and Furious films. You know what? I'll also comment on that. This movie is what I thought the first Fast and Furious movie was going to be when I watched that for the first time. But that one turned out to be a whole bunch of thieves stealing DVD players. Here, this guy is actually out for revenge, drag racing people, and killing people who kind of deserve it. The Wraith is a movie that, surprisingly, I thought was a lot of fun. Is it anything substantial, or is it anything like quality, like, oh, this is an excellent film, please go out of your way to see it? I don't think so, but if you do stumble across it, if you're in like an 80s binge looking for some fun films from the 80s, I would definitely put this movie on the list and say it's a fun-ass time. I'm gonna give The Wraith 3.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I am above average.
So guys, if you've seen The Wraith, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, then comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you all the next time I'm releasing my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.